Niccolò Machiavelli never intended to be a comforter of the weak. He was not a prophet of love or a preacher of idealism. He was a surgeon of reality, a man who stripped the illusions from power and exposed the raw nerves of control. To understand Machiavelli is to understand that in a world ruled by self-interest, survival and influence depend not on how kind you are, but on how effective you can be. And sometimes, effectiveness demands something cold, sharp, and terrifying: necessary cruelty. To the untrained mind, cruelty is barbarism. To the Machiavellian mind, cruelty, when calculated, purposeful, and limited, is not only acceptable, it is essential. Kindness has limits. Kindness can be misinterpreted as weakness. And in a world where the wolves eat the sheep, kindness alone can get you devoured. When kindness fails, and it will, Machiavelli teaches you not to retreat into despair, but to rise with steel in your hand and a mind tuned to precision. Cruelty is a weapon, and like any weapon, it must be wielded with control, intelligence, and timing. The Machiavellian does not advocate savagery. He advocates necessary cruelty, the strategic use of fear, dominance, and decisive force when no other path leads to order, respect, or power. This script explores, in depth, what that means, not through hypotheticals, but through the brutal logic of real human nature, timeless historical examples, and principles rooted in both the prince and centuries of political warfare. Machiavelli wrote for leaders who had everything to lose: kings, generals, revolutionaries. But his lessons are not confined to thrones and battlefields. Today, they apply to you, in the boardroom, the courtroom, the classroom, the bedroom. They apply to relationships, negotiation, competition, reputation. They apply to any place where power is exchanged and hierarchy is real. The law is simple. When kindness fails, use cruelty, but use it well. Not frequently, not emotionally, not chaotically, but with deliberate clarity. Cruelty, in the Machiavellian world, is a surgical act, and those who know how to use it, not enjoy it, but use it, gain the respect and fear that guarantees their survival and ascension. Let us now dive into this law, not as cowards, not as idealists, but as realists who understand that the world does not bend to good intentions, it bends to power. To understand the nature of necessary cruelty, we begin with the central Machiavellian tenet: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. This quote is not a rejection of love. It is a prioritization of fear when love becomes insufficient. Love is voluntary. Fear is reliable. People may love you today, but turn against you when it suits their interests. Fear, when rooted in respect and controlled threat, creates boundaries that even betrayal hesitates to cross. The man who is only kind will eventually suffer. He will be exploited, overstepped, disrespected. People test boundaries. They interpret your mercy as fragility, your silence as submission, your forgiveness as tolerance for abuse. This is not because humans are inherently evil, but because most are self-preserving opportunists. When they sense weakness, they exploit. When they sense power, they obey. Necessary cruelty is not about revenge. It is about correction. When kindness no longer produces respect, when your goodwill is repaid with betrayal or manipulation, Machiavelli demands you act, not to punish from emotion, but to recalibrate the balance of power. One act of cruelty, done quickly, decisively, and with precision, can end cycles of disrespect that years of kindness could not fix. But it must be strategic. Machiavelli warns against excessive cruelty. A tyrant who delights in brutality is not Machiavellian. He is foolish, because excessive cruelty breeds rebellion. The purpose of necessary cruelty is not to destroy, it is to stabilize. Let us take an example from Machiavelli's writings. Cesare Borgia. When Borgia took power in Romagna, the region was chaotic, lawless, overrun with violence. He needed to restore order, but if he did it too softly, he would be ignored. If he did it too brutally, he would be hated. So, he hired Ramiro de Orco, a mercenary known for ruthless discipline. Da Orco restored order quickly, using fear to eliminate crime and rebellion. Then, when the dust had settled, Borgia executed him in a public square. What was the result? The people hated the cruelty, but admired Borgia for removing its source. In one masterstroke, Borgia maintained order and preserved his reputation. This is the Machiavellian ideal. Use cruelty quickly, effectively, and rarely. Then return to generosity, so your cruelty is remembered as strength, not sadism. Now, apply this to your life. Have you been disrespected in business? Kindness fails when you keep turning the other cheek, and the disrespect escalates. Necessary cruelty might be severing the relationship, publicly exposing betrayal, or delivering consequences that echo. Are you being manipulated in a relationship? Kindness fails when you try to explain your hurt, hoping the other changes. Necessary cruelty might be silence, withdrawal, walking away, not to punish, but to assert. It is the refusal to negotiate your dignity. Do people undermine your leadership? Kindness fails when you over-explain, try to please, or seek their approval. Necessary cruelty may be removing them from your circle, cutting access, asserting dominance through action, not justification. Cruelty is not yelling. It is not abuse. It is not chaos. Cruelty is decisive enforcement of boundary, and it must be calculated. Machiavelli speaks often of virtue, a concept not of virtue in the moral sense, but of strength, effectiveness, masculine force. Necessary cruelty is an expression of virtue. It is the moment where you abandon the hope of being liked in favor of being respected, where you abandon passivity in favor of force, where you realize that influence, not innocence, is the currency of survival. The Machiavellian does not seek cruelty. He waits until kindness fails, then acts with ruthless clarity. He does not scream. He strikes. He does not beg. He ends. He does not explain. He shows. One of the most powerful uses of necessary cruelty is detachment, the ability to walk away, to silence, to remove, to disappear. Silence is often crueler than attack, because it creates a void that the offender cannot fill. It communicates that you no longer care enough to fight, that you are above them, and that realization can shatter egos more powerfully than words ever could. Machiavelli would say, "Let them feel your absence, not your anger." It is crucial to note that cruelty must be tied to a clear objective. Punishment for the sake of pain is childish. Strategic cruelty delivers a result: order, obedience, clarity. If it produces chaos, it has failed. This is why emotional control is the foundation of necessary cruelty. If your cruelty is driven by rage, jealousy, or insecurity, it becomes toxic. If it is driven by logic and outcome, it becomes leadership. Machiavelli demands that we rise above impulse, that we become kings of our own behavior. When someone disrespects you, the fool retaliates blindly. The Machiavellian waits, watches, and calculates. And when he moves, it is with purpose. This level of control is power. And power, in the hands of the disciplined, is beautiful. Many men today are stuck in two extremes: simpering kindness or blind aggression. The Machiavellian walks the middle path, kind when kindness serves him, cruel when cruelty preserves him. This duality is necessary, because when kindness fails and you do not respond with force, the world will place you at the bottom. It will ignore your goodness. It will mock your softness, and it will reward those who are willing to act without hesitation. Necessary cruelty is the antidote to this decline. It is the art of controlled violence, not physical necessarily, but psychological. It is the decision to protect your dignity at all costs, to defend your name, to end toxicity, to silence betrayal, to eliminate threat. It is the act that makes future kindness possible. Because once you're known to be capable of cruelty, your kindness will no longer be seen as weakness. It will be seen as choice. And that is true power. So ask yourself, where in your life has kindness failed you? Where are you begging instead of enforcing? Where are you being patient with those who deserve your indifference? Where are you giving softness to those who only understand steel? Understand this. Cruelty is not evil. It is a tool. Like fire, it can destroy, but it can also purify. And when wielded with discipline, it can end cycles of disrespect that nothing else can. Remember, the world is not built on fairness. It is built on force. Be kind, be just, but above all, be feared when necessary. Because when kindness fails, only cruelty restores order. That is the law of necessary cruelty. That is the lesson of Machiavelli. That is the path of the powerful.